Hello and welcome to the 10th ever Football Foes and Fandom Woes podcast with myself, Austin Barkley, a Tottenham fan, former professional footballer, football coach, PE teacher and co-host and fellow football coach and PE teacher, and Arsenal fan, Phil Norman, talk all things football. Today's episode, we're going to be focusing on one of our biggest rivals for both clubs, Arsenal and Tottenham, and that is going to be Chelsea Football Club. It's a big season, as it is for all of our clubs, but a big season for Chelsea. They've got a new manager with Xavi Alonso. Is it going to be the same old Chelsea of recent seasons, or is this the dawn of a new era? What are your thoughts, Phil?
Well, they've definitely gone in a different direction with a couple of their more recent signings. They've obviously, the last couple of years, looked at a very youthful approach, utilised their links with Strasbourg well, more so for Strasbourg. Obviously, they had a good run in the Europa League, or the conference, whatever one it was, and then Gary O'Neill taken over, and then has obviously moved on to Ipswich. I think Xabi Alonso had a great spell at Leverkusen, so, clearly kind of set the ball rolling for him to be hired by Real Madrid. Didn't quite work at Real Madrid. A lot bigger characters, a lot more history, although he was a phenomenal player.
A lot of egos.
As much as he was a great player for them, obviously playing and managing are two very different things, and not all players can take their qualities into management. Maybe it was a job too soon for him, but I think Chelsea's a good project if they ever get given the time. It seems like they've given Alonso the ability to do it his way. Maybe the owners have finally learnt that just splashing cash on lots and lots of young players with potential and having a kind of monstrous size squad isn't the way to go about it. But equally, they've still got a monstrous squad. I think it was something like 42 players currently they've got, and they've got to get rid of 16 or 17 players before the beginning of the season.
Yeah, I mean, if we look at this transfers for this coming up season, so obviously Morgan Rogers was the massive one, 117 million. I know yourselves, Arsenal were in for him, so I don't know how you feel about potentially losing him. They got Giovanni Quenda, 40 million, a right-sided wing-back from Sporting Lisbon. Maxime Lacroix, I think, is a really good signing from Palace for 52 million, experienced centre-back, very good centre-back. Valentin Barco, 34 million, not sure about him.
Be contentious, isn't it?
I haven't seen too much. Yeah, definitely. I haven't seen too much about him, to be honest, to make an adjustment of what he's like. Yeah, it didn't. I mean, obviously, the Argentinian game, he didn't cover himself in glory in terms of after the game. Jordan Henderson, I think that's a great signing, really on a free. A lot of experience, like you said. They've signed so many young players in the past that I think they finally maybe learned that that might not be the way to go. And it actually seeming, like you said, to back the manager and get the players in that he wants. Yeah. Marco Palestra, they got for 43 million, right wing back or left wing back. You can play your side, Italian player. Not sure what he's like, but apparently he was clocked as the fastest player in Serie A last season.
I think he's another very attacking fullback stroke wing back, maybe defensively, not quite there yet, a little bit immature, but in terms of an attacking role will be useful, I think.
Yeah, and then you've got Danny Welbeck, which I think is another good signing for 5 million, a lot of experience up the top there. You know that he's going to be sort of, you would imagine someone's going to fill in for João Pedro when he's not playing or he's being rested, or someone who can come on and add that experience going up top. Because I think the argument against Chelsea over the last few seasons was they were getting into leagues, weren't they, and they couldn't sustain them, or they didn't have the know-how, the experience to see out games. So obviously they're trying to rectify that, you would think, with the signings that they're making. We've got Chavaria, I think that's how you say his name, for 16.3 million, the left wing back. I'm not too sure what he's like, but again, a bit more of an experienced player.
I suppose he's a straight swap for Cucurella, isn't it?
Yeah, you would think so. I mean, before we get into yesterday's last pre-season game for them at home, a couple of younger players, Harrison Batonia, free from Wigan Athletic. They also signed Dastan Sapiev, I think is how you say it, 4 million. Kazakhstan player centre forward. Another wing back, Alves Dena from Brazil, 3.3 million. Their total spend was 314 million. But if you subtract the players that they've sold, which was Cucurella, 55 million, Tyreek George for 24 million, which I think is a really good signing for Everton.
Very good.
That was 79 million. So effectively, at the moment, they spent 235.6 million. So like you just said, they're probably looking to sell a few more players to try and I would imagine, reduce that amount that they paid out this summer, because that is a lot of money, isn't it?
Sounds like Pedro Neto's off to Saudi. He's off to Al Hilal with Ronaldo. 70 million, sounds like, which is interesting.
I think, again, like a player of his quality, for him to go to a league like that, I know they're paying an extreme amount of money. I mean, Chelsea are obviously paying a really good salary. I think him at his age, he's too good to be going to. No disrespect to that league. I know it's getting growing, it's getting bigger, but for me, that's just astounding if that is going to happen. You'd think there'd be other teams, surely, that would be looking at him, thinking if he's available.
I think it gets to the point, doesn't it? Yeah, I think it gets to the point with some of these players where you go, how much is enough? You know, they're like you said, Neto's probably on best part of easily 100 grand a week plus as a proven Portuguese international. You know, don't get me wrong, he could probably triple his wages, if not more, going to Saudi. But 100 grand a week's a good 150 grand a week. That's a good sum of money that's going to set you, your family, and probably your home village or your hometown up for life in many ways. And I know, as I said, you know, more is good. If either of us were offered double salaries, you're probably going to take it, right? You probably make those sacrifices. But I think in football, your career's only so long, isn't it? And especially at your peak. And I think he's, 27, 26, 27?
Yeah, he's around about that age, isn't he?
But great for their league. You know, brilliant for Saudi as a league, getting players like that. But I'm with you. I do think maybe the pull of playing Ronaldo, maybe in his last year, maybe that's exciting for him. Portuguese. Yeah, I'm just trying to weigh it up. But
yeah, and I get that. But I was watching like the highlights of their game. Like, I know we were doing this podcast like yesterday, pre-season game, and he looked like he was playing really well. He's playing as a wing back. So, I mean, yesterday they played like a 3-4-3. They had Cole Palmer, Morgan Rogers, both playing in up there with João Pedro. Pedro's obviously the main striker, and them two just playing in the hole, playing.
It's great that they're playing together again, isn't it? Palmer and Rogers.
And also that system will suit them both perfectly because they're not just stuck out wide.
Yeah.
They can play in a space, they can play in a hole, they can drop in. So it's going to really suit them going forward. Reece James was playing centre midfield with Caicedo. Neto was one of the wing, but he was playing as a right wing back, and Palestra was playing as a left wing back. Then their centre backs were Wesley Fofana, Maxime Lacroix, and Levi Colwell. It's good to see Levi Colwell back.
Yeah. I just hope he stays fit, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it was you would think that's quite a strong starting lineup. The three up top, I mean, that's got to be exciting for Chelsea fans. Cole Palmer, if he's back to his best. Morgan Rogers, I think I was astounded when João Pedro never got selected for the Brazilian squad by Ancelotti. He definitely made a massive mistake there.
He did.
He's got 7 goals already in this pre-season. He looks... I mean, when we talk about the lack of centre-forwards throughout the world, maybe, and in the Premier League, he's definitely one of them who's... Like,
and with those two players behind him, he's getting chances galore, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, they had a lot of good players that they could bring on as well. We'll talk about Enzo Fernandez in a minute, but Esteval came on. Yeah, came on. That Chavara came on. Henderson and Welbeck weren't in the squad, but obviously they were going to be involved. I would imagine Jamie Gittins came on. You would imagine that he might have a bit of a part to play this year. I would say, though, it's a little bit more trickier for the wingers. If he's going to play this 3-4-3, which he started with wing backs, which was a preferred system, wasn't it, at Leverkusen, where he had all that success. And he didn't probably use that at Real Madrid, maybe because he didn't have the players to play that. But it's going to be hard for those like wingers like Jamie Gittins to, because when you play wing backs, you're not really going to play a winger there. You're looking more as a fullback, aren't you, as a wing back, and making them overlapping runs, which allows Cole Palmer, Morgan Rogers to drop in. But the first half, they were under a lot of pressure, actually. The goalkeeper, Sanchez, thank you, made a lot of really, really good saves. Second half, they were a lot better, Chelsea, and they went on to win the game quite comfortably. But it'd be interesting. Obviously, Enzo Fernandez come on, and there's a portion of the crowd that were booing him. There's a portion of the crowd that were cheering him. Do you think he's going to be sold? There's talk about Man City coming in for him, isn't there? If Rodri gets sold.
He'll be gone.
You think so?
If Man City want to play, they get him, don't they? It doesn't... Man City are the new Chelsea, aren't they? Chelsea started the next phase of, I guess, football ownership, didn't they, under Abramovich and the money flooding since then. And then Man City under the chairman, that they became a bigger Chelsea. And obviously when Abramovich left, things obviously changed, didn't they, at Chelsea and the way it was run. Obviously recently Chelsea have had their kind of feedback on the fines, and they avoided somehow a points deduction, and yet teams like Everton and Nottingham Forest had points deductions, and that I don't morally know how that works, and I don't really want to sit here on a pod and say too much because I don't have enough information as to why that was the case. But from afar, it just seems a little big team against slightly smaller team. That's no disrespect to Nottingham Forest with what they've achieved over their history, and Everton as well, but I don't know. It doesn't seem to weigh up. Everton seem to have a lot less discrepancies, yet they got punished more than Chelsea. That's how it seemed. But in terms of Enzo Fernandez, look, I think if he's made his stance pretty clear, hasn't he? If we're being brutally honest, over the last 4 or 5 months. Initially, it was Real Madrid. Now, obviously, Maresca's gone in there. He's got a good understanding, obviously, what Chelsea plays. He's probably wanted since January when he left because he knew he was getting the job post-Guardiola. So there was obviously rumblings behind. Guardiola clearly knew that he was leaving probably at the end of the previous season, if not the beginning of this season. Worst case scenario at Christmas, Maresca stood down because he knew he was going to get the job. Look, he was in a perfect position to have a word with a few of those Chelsea boys, wasn't he? And say, look, this is the project we're going to offer you. Enzo, you're going to sit behind Haaland. We've got Anderson coming in. Potentially Rodri stays, probably not now. We've got Buwadi now coming in, possibly. Well, that's 100 million on 100 million on 100 million. Got Haaland, who's arguably probably a 250 million pound striker, if not more. Doku's just signed a new contract. So if you're Enzo Fernandez, no disrespect to Chelsea, but Man City's where Chelsea were under Mourinho. They've swapped places, haven't they, really? I mean, Man City were in, League One and the Championship probably when Abramovich took over initially with Chelsea. So it'd be a good move for Enzo Fernandez. Again, it's the nomadic nature of football, isn't it? There's no real loyalty with teams like Chelsea because, again, I don't think there's really any loyalty from Chelsea to their players because they're just resources, aren't they? And I don't mean that horribly to Chelsea, by the way. It's just the nature of how they go about their transfers, really, and their players.
Yeah. Like you said, they've got so many players. They need to offload so many. And obviously, Garnacho, they brought him last season. Now he's gone on loan to Villa. They brought Delap last season. It looks like he wasn't in the squad at all yesterday. So it looks like Alonso doesn't want him there. So he's going to be looking for a club. Nicholas Jackson, again, was obviously on loan at Bayern Munich last year. Appears that he's not in the picture under Alonso. And we spoke about Nicholas Jackson as potential for Tottenham, which I said, love to see him there.
It'd be a great signing.
And I think that would be a really good signing for a club if he was going to go there and play all the time, like he did at Ipswich, where he really showed what he was about. He knew that he was going to play week in, week out. With Chelsea, I guess he struggled with injuries and he struggled to get in the team and make a real significant impact when he was in the team. But I think there is a player in there, isn't there?
He proved at Ipswich, didn't it? Proved that Ipswich is worth. He's a workhorse. I love the link for him. I love the link at Como. Play under Cesc Fabregas. He plays a brilliant brand of football. What he's done at Como under the ownership of Dennis Wise and a couple of other in their kind of core ownership group, they've done remarkable. I think it'd be a brilliant move for Delap to head out there and have a season under Fabregas, play alongside Morata. Trevor Chalobah's just left there, hasn't he, to go and play at Como. I watched actually Como Arsenal in the week, and Como, they've got some really talented players. Nico Paz has just signed permanently. They're building something really special. Was that a player
from Real Madrid?
Yeah, the 60 million pound from the Argentinian international. And in Fabregas, they've arguably got one of the best upcoming young managers, and football brains. He was elite, wasn't he, in the midfield for Arsenal?
He was an unbelievable
Chelsea. So I think it'd be a great if he could get that move and he was willing to move abroad for a season. I think at his age that'd be a really sensible move. He's not going to get a lot of game time under Alonso, is he? Like you said, you've got to go somewhere where the manager backs you.
Yeah, definitely. With signing off Welbeck, you would think he's going to be the backup for João Pedro. I could see, I mean, if Delap's not featured in the squad, I think that's like telling him, isn't it? Basically, you're not going to be a part of my plans. Same with Nicholas Jackson. So I would say someone like Everton were linked with Delap a bit early in pre-season, weren't they?
He's a moist player, isn't he?
Yeah, you could see that all day long. And I think that's somewhere, again, he could flourish. If he doesn't go to essentially to Como, wants to stay in the Premier League, then if that was an offer to him, I think it'd be a great signing for it'd be great for both parties, to be honest.
I agree. I mean, you think it would be, what would it be, Delap, Beto and Tiano Barry, wouldn't it? So you'd probably I would put Delap on his best day ahead of both of those.
Yeah, I would.
And another English player, which would be great, selfishly.
Yeah, without doubt. And he's got a lot of potential.
He has.
I think, to do really, really well.
I agree.
So Chelsea last year finished 10th. The season finished it was a bit of a down squid towards the end. It was getting quite toxic, a little bit like Tottenham, really, in terms of the fans were turning on the team, the board. And I guess the board has addressed that. They've changed their philosophy, like you said earlier. They were more interested in buying the latest and the best young players around the world who have potential, and not even buying players that the current managers or the head coach that they had there wanted at that time, which I always find quite baffling, that you buy players and then get a head coach in and say, right, you've got to work with these players and make them into a team, when they might not be the type of player that you actually want. It's going to fit the way that you want to play.
And surely that's part of the interview process, isn't it? Surely that would be part of your management interview process. You know, what is your style? What are the type of players you'd want or you feel like you need? In my head, that's logic, is it not?
Yeah. But do you not think that Chelsea and the board have brought in coaches that they feel that they can manage and tell them what they want them to do?
They've tried to go a more European model.
They want to do it.
Yeah, they've tried to go a more European model. You're the coach. We buy the players. You're the coach.
Yeah. And with Alonso, obviously, when they're interviewing him, one of his, I would say, major things that he would have wanted coming to Chelsea was that he wants to pick the players and buy the players and have complete control over the team.
Yeah.
Because when Maresca left, I know there was obviously the Man City thing in the background for him, but there were a lot of rumblings from him, wasn't there, about the way he was being controlled, as it seemed, by people within the Chelsea hierarchy who he felt, and from what he was saying, if you read in between lines, he felt like they didn't know what they were talking about, basically. And there were times where he's come out and he's had to do reflections on the game with the hierarchy. For me, I mean, if you're doing that every game, you've got people you're talking to that haven't played or coached or managed, and they're telling you what you've done wrong, and what I would find that I imagine that's quite difficult. So as much as Man City were in the background for him, I think there was an element of that he's just had enough of all that, having to deal with all that. I can't see that happening with Xavi Alonso. Can you, being a manager?
No, and I think you'd like you said with Maresca, you had that Todd Bowie. The amount of times on Sky Sports News after games you see him walking down from his seat across the pitch, and it was all about him, and it was all about the consortium that owned it, wasn't it? Rather than the players and the manager and the squad and what the collective are doing on the pitch. So it just never looked. It never looked like you said the manager was in control of the squad. It never even looked like the players were in control of what they were doing half the time, because it was so contrived. But Alonso's not going to stand for that.
No. It did seem that they were employing yes men, wasn't it, with Rossini afterwards. People that they could actually control.
But it was the Strasbourg setup, wasn't it? I mean, it was that link, wasn't it, from Strasbourg? It was we'll shut them there, you come in. And I felt a bit sorry for Rossini. He became a bit of a meme, didn't he? He became a bit of a David Brent in many ways.
A complete scapegoat, wasn't he, towards the end?
Because actually, up to that point, he'd done a brilliant job for Strasbourg, really impressive. He did a great job at Hull City. He was very well thought of at Brighton as a coach before he went to Hull. And the Chelsea job kind of put him a step back. I know he's just signed for Paris FC as their new manager. So obviously in France, they respect and appreciate the job he did. But it was... like you said, it was a lot of yes people. It was a lot of nodding of heads, and very controlled, and therefore football became secondary, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. From the outside, I mean, obviously we're looking at it from the outside, but it did appear to be that way. And I think a lot of Chelsea fans were thinking that. A couple of Chelsea fans that I work with at my school were complete agreement with what we're saying, really, that they were just employing people that they could control, that were yes men, bringing in players who they felt, in comparison, rightly so, to previous Chelsea teams, weren't good enough for Chelsea. Too many young players coming in. So I think what we were saying, speaking to some Chelsea fans where I work, was kind of backing up what we are saying. So they did finish 10th last season. Obviously, now they've got no Europe, like us at Tottenham. With the signings they've made and with Xavi Alonso coming in, are Chelsea potential dark horses to win the Premier League?
No.
Because if you look at their squad and compare it to Tottenham, their squad is, I would say, stronger, a lot stronger at the moment. And you don't think so?
Top four.
You think Champions League?
Yeah. Look, for me, at the moment, if you look at the squads, you've got Arsenal and City that are probably just ahead of everyone else with their full complement. I think if I'm honest, I think there's a bit of a toss-up between Chelsea and United at the moment where their squads are at. I think both Chelsea and United starting 11s are very strong. But after that, maybe the depth off the bench isn't quite where City and Arsenal are at the moment. They're just slightly behind. Alonso as a manager is still quite an unknown quantity. So we don't know about his in-game management too much. Obviously at Real Madrid, like I said, it didn't work. Leverkusen was a different kind of ball game completely. You know, Carrick, look, he did great off the back of Amorim, but still slightly unproven. But I love the fact they've backed Carrick. I love the fact that it's an English manager in charge of a big team. That's fantastic. But you know, Liverpool, they're a strange one. You know, I think they've got a phenomenal manager in Iraola, and what he did at Bournemouth was mind blowing. But the difference was Bournemouth really backed Iraola. They had 10 games where they didn't win. They didn't win in their first 10 games, and then they stuck with him. Will Liverpool do that with Iraola? I think they will. I hope they will. But again,
to be fair, to Liverpool, they do tend to back their managers, don't they? They do.
And the crowd's phenomenal. The crowd get behind them. As I said, my son and partner went up to Anfield recently and they watched the Monaco pre-season friendly, and they said there was a lot of positives, but just a little bit lacking in depth. They felt like when the subs were made and they came on. So I think they're probably missing a couple. I know we'll talk about them in a different pod, but they're probably missing a little bit. But I think with Chelsea and United, I think are similar. I actually think Chelsea's starting 11's better than Man U's. But I like I said, Man U, Liverpool, Chelsea, 3, 4, 5 for me. That's where I see those three teams.
Yeah. So I listened to Talk Sport the other day, and Jason Cundy, who's a massive Chelsea fan, was backing Chelsea to win the league. So I thought that was quite a bold claim, to be honest.
Oh, I think that's just to get pundits in, right?
Yeah. I think you would think they're going to be in the top 5 at least. You would imagine that with the squad they got, they're going to challenge for the Champions League places. They haven't got any Europe, so they're going to be focused and you would think fresh, getting prepared, which was a big thing for United, and it is a big thing for like if you've got a big squad and you haven't got that commitment of Saturday, Tuesday or Saturday, Wednesday, they're going to be a lot fresher than when they're playing teams like who are in Europe, especially. The thing is, do you think they can win a trophy this year, won the FA Cup or the EFL?
Yeah, I do. I think I could see them being finalists for the Carabao Cup. I could definitely see them doing well in that. FA Cup, maybe, but I think Carabao Cup. It's a bit of the Newcastle effect in where they are at the moment of a couple of years ago under Eddie Howe. They just need that almost first cup under their belt, that first title under the belt, almost justify what Alonso's doing, and then you can build a platform from that. They need a minimum of a good run. You know, worst case scenario for Chelsea this year, I think you've got to be realistic. They were, like you said, they were 10th last season. So top 6 would be great. That's progress. But I think they definitely need to have a very good run in either the Carabao Cup or
I mean, they did get to the final last year, didn't they? Or was it the FA Cup? Or
they did. They lost to City.
Yeah. So, I mean, as bad as they were at times, they still managed to get to a cup final and played okay within that final.
Yeah. And a different manager set, wasn't it? I think they did pretty, like you said, they did, based on limited experience of first-team football. I thought that Callum McFarlane, did a brilliant job up at Man City, didn't he, with that one game when he was in charge.
Yeah.
did excellently against City in that cup final.
So, what players do you think they need to? I mean, I don't know if they can get in too many more players. What players do you think they would need to really push them towards?
Goalkeeper. It was interesting you saying, obviously, Sanchez had a good game. Sanchez he's a strange one because obviously he's well regarded. He's generally in the Spanish setup, maybe their third or fourth choice goalkeeper. But I just feel a lot of the time, for all the good they do, there's so many mistakes in their goalkeeper, and they haven't seemed to have known who their number one is for a long time. I think last season, what did they have? 6 goalkeepers at the beginning of the season. Got rid of Petrovic to Bournemouth for a good sum of money. They kept Sanchez. They kept Jorgensen. They got rid of Kepa to Arsenal. He hasn't quite done the job for Arsenal, sadly, and we won't talk about the Carabao Cup last year. But well done to Nico O'Reilly. Great to see as an English player doing so well. But I think their goalkeeping situation is their Achilles heel. I think when you look at the starting 11 you mentioned yesterday, that's a really strong 10 outfield players, but Sanchez as your goalkeeper or Jorgensen as your goalkeeper, they don't shout out you like a David Raya, an Alisson, a Donnarumma. I really like that Lemons at Man U. I think for a young goalkeeper,
he's been brilliant for him. Yeah.
Just consistent. He doesn't do anything amazing. He doesn't do anything bad. He's just a solid 7 every single game. And from a goalkeeper, it's a bit like referees. You don't want to see it. You don't want to hear it. You just want them to do their job, and that's it. And even Kinski, as we said post Madrid, he's become that goalkeeper as well. Just goes about his business, and that's what you want. But for Chelsea, that seems to be their Achilles heel, and probably Fofana. I think Fofana post Leicester, I thought he was brilliant at Leicester. I think he started off at Chelsea really well, but he's had a couple of bad ACL injuries, and he hasn't really got back to the heights of where he was. But I think he's great. But I just don't. Can he last the season? A bit like Reece James.
Yeah. I mean, Reece James. Yes, he was playing centre midfield, and obviously you would think, would he be playing there as a wing back? You've got obviously Gusto as well, who's a right wing back, and you've got they signed Palestra, who's a wing back. So it'd be interesting. Chavara on the other side. So it'd be interesting where they see Reece James playing. But I totally agree with the goalkeeper. I mean, all last season and the season before, they've been talking about the goalkeeper, haven't they? And getting signing a top class. I'm not saying they're not top class, but maybe someone just a level above.
Yeah.
And you would have thought that would have been a priority for them. But they've sort of stuck with Sanchez by the look of it. It'd be interesting to see how he does. I think they're right. I think there's mistakes in him. I don't think his distribution's always been as good as it should be. For a team who likes to play out from the back, you can imagine Xavi Alonso is going to play out from the back. So, I think that's
but as an opposition, you want Sanchez in goal. Yeah, because like you said, his distribution allows teams in so often. But from Chelsea, like you said, it is that level. If you take your top tier goalkeepers in the Prem, he sits in that next bracket, doesn't he? And he's a goalkeeper for me for a mid-table team. Yeah. That's why he was at Brighton. I think at Brighton he was playing at his peak. Yeah, if I'm Chelsea, that's the area I'm crying out for. I want an elite goalkeeper.
And it's funny you mentioned Wesley Fofana, because I was going to talk about him as well. That I totally agree that when he was at Leicester, he looked unbelievable, didn't he?
He looked arguably could be the best centre back in world football at one stage, if not European football.
Just hasn't really happened for him at Chelsea as much. I know he's had some terrible injuries, which is going to impact your form. So that might be an area they're looking at. It's good to see, like we said earlier, Levi Colwill coming back, left-sided centre back. Because the way they were set up yesterday, obviously he was on the left side, Levi Colwill. Maxime Nicole was in the middle, and then Wesley Fofana was playing on the right side of them. So, it'd be interesting. I mean, when you look at the front three, Cole Palmer, Morgan Rogers and João Pedro, that's a hell of a front three, isn't it? Mm. If they're linking and playing well and on the top of their game. And if Neto does stay, I just can't see him playing. Yeah, I can't see Neto starting as a wing-back too many times. If he's going to play with wing-backs.
He's not a wing-back. Like, let's throw that out there. He's a nuggety player. Like, he will get stuck in, but he is an attack-minded player who does still need to improve his end game. He needs to improve his end quality.
Yeah.
But he's not a wing back now, and he won't be a wing back in the future. And I think he is a little bit temperamental, and he won't enjoy being a wing back because the defensive bit.
I used to be a winger, and sometimes I like to play as a wing back. It's the hardest position.
It's different level of fitness as well, isn't it?
It is.
Different.
It's a totally different.
Tough.
Yeah, totally different. And it's definitely more suited to full-backs, right-backs, left-backs than it is for wingers, because you need the defensive side of your game to be really, really strong. And if it isn't, and most wingers' defensive side is not the best, then managers always look at that and tend to go with a fullback rather than a winger, unless they're chasing a game and they need a couple of goals, then they sort of take that risk. So
the player I want to throw out to you, talking of just going back to the defensive side, who I think is a phenomenal talent, and I don't know whether he's appreciated enough at Chelsea, and equally he hasn't played enough yet, is that Josh Achiampong.
Yeah, he was involved yesterday. He came on. So, I think potentially he's someone who could break into
he's linked to Coventry, isn't it? He's linked
He is, yeah. I was going to say he could break in, but then on the other side, there are clubs sort of sniffing around looking to buy him, aren't they? So
English as well, young, can play right back, can play centre-back.
Yeah, it'd be
I
interesting.
think he's exciting.
Yeah, to see what Chelsea do with him. If someone like Coventry came in and made a bid for him, or they might let him go out on loan.
Arsenal were linked with him a few weeks ago.
Oh, would they?
Yeah, they like the look of him supposedly. So, look, I think, if I was Chelsea, I'd quite like him to be appreciated a little bit more. I don't think going out on loan would do him any harm if he could go to a club where he could play the whole season. But, when we talk about that back three, I don't think Achiampong's too far away from a Fofana and again, like you said, it depends how Colwell comes back from this injury, because I do think they're going to have to balance it and work with him slowly but surely. You can't expect him to go straight back in and play game after game after game.
No.
It'd be good. But Lacroix's a great signing for them.
I think so.
Sensible.
And you have to say, him, the signing of Henderson for that experience, and Welbeck, that experience, they desperately needed that, haven't they? So, and there's players, them three players, you would imagine under the old philosophy, they wouldn't have signed them, would they? Well, no, definitely not Henderson or Welbeck.
It wouldn't even been a discussion. It wouldn't have been a discussion at all.
So, Chelsea fans, what are your thoughts of the upcoming season? Where do you think they're going to finish? Do you think they could potentially win the league? I know there'll be a number of Chelsea fans that will be thinking that, but is that a realistic thing to say at this time? Jason Cundy, those who listen to TalkSport, believes that they can win the league. Is it more realistic that they're going to qualify for the Champions League? Are you expecting them to win one of the domestic trophies? We'd love to hear your thoughts and comments. Obviously, us being a Tottenham fan myself, and Phil being an Arsenal fan, you're one of our biggest rivals. I mean, you must love playing against Tottenham. Every time you play us home away, you always beat. You're our bogey team for sure. No matter how poor or how well your team is playing, you will always beat Tottenham at the moment. So we'd love to know your thoughts and comments. Please get in touch. And then we hope you've enjoyed this podcast, and we look forward to you all listening in the future. Thank you and goodbye.